free Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Download the app in the description below. Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder, and welcome to a tournament lineup in a normal realistic battle. To explain why this happened, or how it came around, well, there's two reasons. First one is pretty self-explanatory. I've been participating in a couple of tournaments over the past few days, and then I eventually signed up for the 5 versus 5, which resulted in you very much needing to use specific lineups. In a 1v1, whether it's a plane dogfight or a tank dogfight, there are sometimes selected vehicles you can use, like from, all different nations, but in general, in a 1 versus 1, everybody chooses the best vehicle provided, and so it just turns into a, apples to apples comparison. But in a 5 versus 5 tournament, you have 5 players, 5 different play styles, 3 different capture points. It's a very complex game mode, so I figured the best way to practice for it wasn't to do custom battles, because I can't be asked to do them, but instead played random RB, because I get kills here, which means I can actually progress through different kind of camouflages and kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But the real reason that kind of revealed itself to be extremely useful at the end of it was that by using a tournament lineup in a normal match, I got to see what the game looked like for an average player. Now, for me, I know lineups pretty much inside and out. I know which BR you should use which vehicles, because frankly, I've got 10 slots, so I could just throw in 10 vehicles regardless of which matchmaker I'm playing, and I'd always got something to throw back into the match, whether it's another bomber, or an attacker, or a fighter, or an SPA, or a heavy tank, you name it. But in these lineups, what I'm using is a 6.3 lineup, because I've got the Pershing, but it's also the only 6.0 tank. The lineup itself contains one 6.3, one 6.0, one 5.7, two 5.3s, one 5.0, and I believe then the planes are 4.0 and 3.3 respectively. So overall, this is what I think a lineup would look like for a person who's barely played any aircraft, progressed just about to start of tier 3, and in tanks, he's been rushing down the medium line trying to get the M46, but he's stuck in the M26. So this is, I think, what an average to below average player's lineup would look like. It's still a very good lineup, not that I can't use it, but there's always an off chance. There's an off chance that you're going to get up-tiered to 7.3 or 7.0 or 6.7, and within those battle ratings, you're going to start to struggle, because when your first best tank gets taken out, everything you're left with is, well, not better, but worse. Now, when I was playing this match, there was a couple of interesting things I've noticed. First of all, I screwed up the start of the game. I was going to go and rush for B, which means I get some spawn points, which means if I die early, I can respawn the plane, and I was planning on practicing some of the different assault fuse times for the actual 500-pound bombs, but didn't get around to that until a little bit later. What I've also noticed is that the enemy team had Napalm. Now, Napalm is one of the YouTubers that I've been working with for a very long time now, and he's a person who doesn't like aircraft. He's one of those people who don't like close air support. He's very, very avid about it. So I was surprised when I saw him driving out the Type 65, the newly added Russian SPA in the Operation Summer, and he was using it as a very aggressive tank destroyer. Now, this worked because during the time of this recording, the actual vehicle, this was the first day of it being released, it still had the full HVAC belt. Mind you, do I find that nerf to be unnecessary? No, because I'm going to use the Type 65 as an SPA and not as a tank destroyer. So I had a bit of an unlucky opportunity here, because I was kind of dealing shots with, I believe, an IS-1, and both of us kind of missed, still using that front, and then I've noticed that there is indeed an SPA on my right-hand side, and I figured out 3 seconds in, it is in fact Napalm. We've met each other now in a random match. It's a 1 versus 1. And I'm a little bit screwed here, because he takes out my driver from the side and he starts shooting my engine deck, but he makes a lethal mistake of not going for the ammo rack with the crew members, but instead keeps shooting at that middle open section with no ammo rack locations. So I blow him up, but I get then taken out in reverse by the IS-1 that I failed to kill in the first shot, and that would be the beginning of a match concluded. This is where everything goes downhill. Now, I do have a backup for the M26, so technically my 6.3 lineup is still in full effect. But I'm also aware that with Napalm having driven out the Type 65, there's a very high chance that he or some other players on his team are going to be respawning in planes. So at this point, the best that I can do is spawn a fighter, go into fighter mode, drop my bombs, and then try to take out as many of the enemy fighters and attackers as possible, and hopefully by that time, my team has still withstood the initial force of the spawn captures and capture points. If you look at the top of the screen, you'll see that we have 2 capture points, the enemy has 1, which means the tickets are in our advantage, and this is the only thing I use when it comes to spawning in planes. When I spawn a plane, I know that I can no longer contend for the capture point, meaning if we have all the capture points, or we have the majority of them, which means 2 out of 3, I will go for the plane. But if we have 0 capture points, it would be a lot more beneficial at that point to spawn something else. First target engaged is a premium P-47. The Russians have that in their disposal. Also, think about a bit of a lower BR. That might be something to take into consideration to kind of fix Gaijin. But in general, though, we had a bit of a dogfight here with the Yak, and then immediately notice a bit of a problem. You see shots coming from behind, and as I check, that would also be Napalm in his PE-201. Now, the Peshkas are extremely dangerous if you get them on your tail for a bit of a prolonged period of time, so I go into a dogfight with them, and well, don't want to toot my own horn, I would have had him here, but of course the Yak 3P did return back and finish me off. Had I dropped the bombs, perhaps may had a delay on them, took out the Yak 3P beforehand, would have been all nice and dandy, but at this point we have to swap our playstyle. There's no more point in spawning a fighter, even though I do have the SB2C to spawn in. I'm going to take out the M19. And the M19, along with the M42 Duster, are some of my favorite SPA available in the game. However, my first spawn here was butchered. You see, as I spawn in, I immediately start moving. That means I'm no longer in spawn protection. That was a lethal mistake, because there's too many planes up for me to really focus on any of them. And one thing that you probably know from playing SPA is they're extremely hard to play. At least that's the initial kind of impression. For me, the issue of SPA is that I can't hit, and it could take 2, 3 to 4 minutes before I finally get my first shot off target that actually gets kills. And when that happens, when you get the aim in, it just kind of falls together. So with SPA, I figured, screw it, I'm going to respawn the backup. Now, backups are something I don't buy. I've never bought a backup in my life, but they do come pretty much free, installed in, because you keep getting them after matches. And having played a couple of thousand of them, obviously, you do get those backups pretty handy. So now comes the part where I'm still using my spawn protection. Look at the bottom left of the corner, you'll see that my tank is sort of flashing, and that means that the enemy cannot kill me at this point in time. I engage the first Yak, get some hits on him, engage the second, set him on fire, and then from far distance I see Napalm closing in with his PE-28, give him a bit of a headshot, and also a quick second later the initial Yak that I critted also goes down, so we get that lovely triple kill in the SPA practically straight from spawn. And this is why I like two things. I like the way spawn protection works, and I like the way spawn camping works, because aircraft, this might be a bit of an unknown fact, but aircraft actually spawn camp, because, well, frankly, when you're spawning in SPA and the enemy is in an aircraft, they should be prioritizing you, so they're kind of forced to spawn camp you, because that's the only place that you're going to find you. Now, the trick behind the whole spawn camping fiasco, for me, what I love about it is that when you spawn in, you have spawn protection and the enemy's there waiting for you. Practically, you have kills on demand without needing to do much work for them. Unfortunately, all these free kills don't really put a smile on my face, because when I glance at the minimap, I can see that we've practically lost this game. Now, a lot of my teammates at the moment have respawned in SPA, and as much as I'd like to say this is the perfect time for me to bail out of my SPA, as I've already gotten 3 kills, respawn a tank and go for the objective, which probably would have been the smarter idea, I decided to stick with the SPA because I know the average SPA player still struggles too much for me to reliably rely on them. So, frankly, I've decided that what I was going to maximize in this match was going to be kills rather than go for the actual objective, because in the current state, I just can't risk going for it. I spot an IL-2, and then out of my glance I can see a P-47 Premium, 3 shots fired, 4th one hits the target, and immediate complete destruction. This is why I love SPA, because even at long distances they're absolutely devastating, but when you come nice and close and don't move your aircraft, don't do anything to evade the enemy, you're going to get blown to smithereens. Now, I've spotted the IL-2, and judging from his approach, I had to have guessed this was also going to be Napalm, because, well, frankly, I've killed him before, he was going to go for me again. He spams all his rockets, fails to hit a single one of them, and then crashes just behind my wreck. At this point, I'm pretty happy with the outcome of the match, because I think I've done maximum damage with the SPA that was possible. Obviously, grinding kills on these SPA is extremely annoying, because to get a lot of kills in an SPA, it comes down to a bit of a balance between how many planes the enemy is spawning out, as well as the kind of balance of how many SPAs your team is spawning out. So there's this kind of, your team has to be not too good but not too bad, and the enemy team has to be too good but not too, it's kind of complex to explain. Of course, the inevitable happens, the team loses middle of the game, Bravo is about to fall, and I'm in a 1v1 with a T-34-85. Not much I can do from the front. I do swap shells for the armor piercings, but, well, actually, I take that back. The T-34 did exactly what he shouldn't have done, which is try to push side on, which means he gave me his side of the profile, and the armor-piercing shells went straight through the lower kind of portion of the hull, straight into the tank, and destroyed the ammunition. So, thanks for the free kill, but unfortunately even that is not going to be enough to bring back the match. Right now we would need probably at least 3 players who are extremely good in tanks to be able to kind of push back the offensive. And if you look at the team standings, half of my team not just is an SPA, but is on the brink of being taken out of the match. The other half has been taken out of the match, and the enemy still has pretty much 90% of their team standing. So at this point, unless I was given an F2 Saber with 16 rockets, then I've hit 8 of them, and then somehow respawn that 3 more times, there's simply no point of winning. So I hid behind a bush here, trying to kind of wait if any other targets are going to come by. I see a few more kind of close air supports that are being spammed in, and I think the best you can do these late games is just to kind of maximize damage for yourself, be a little bit of an egotistical player, unfortunately, because pushing out will result in you getting slam dunked by a IS-1. And here it is. I'm being attack teamed now by 2 players, stuck on a house. The cannon breach has been destroyed. The best I can do is just soak up a little bit more damage, and after that I'm going to make a decision, which is whether I'm going to bail out of the game or consider maybe, well, spawn camping in reverse. This is something that is the second favorite thing for me. Not respawning SPA and killing the aircraft that are spawn camping you, but killing the enemy tanks. And I've got a perfect tank for this, the Sherman Jumbo. Now, the reason I spawned the Sherman Jumbo in here is because I knew that at long distances, which is where the enemy will be engaging me, they won't really have much of a chance at penetrating me. The aircraft can kill me, that is going to be a problem, but I think I can stay alive with the spawn protection for long enough for me to soak up a few more kills. First target I spot is a KV-2, I think one of the premium ones, and my first shot was completely butchered. But I don't think the KV-2 had a bit of a good clue where the shot came from. The second one might have alerted him, so he starts to kind of angle the front of his tank, but confusingly still looking towards the left, and the third shot goes through the front of the mantlet, straight into the tank, and kills off the crew members. And then immediately I diverse my attention back towards the aircraft. This is, I believe, still the Peshka, not sure who's flying it at this given point in time, but there's a lot you can do. Most of the American tanks have top-mounted 50 cals, and these things are amazing at close-range combat to prevent enemy aircraft from doing damage. Then I get a shot in, and I don't have a good clue of what it is, but it does look like the top of a PT-76, and indeed it is one of those hanging along the dislike camo. A Yak makes another low-end pass, and since the PT-76 can carry heat FS, albeit I'm not scared of that shell even when it comes to playing the Sherman Jumbo here, we can easily diversify him and give him another long-range shot towards the driver. The shot goes a bit butchered, but still kill the loader, and another kill nonetheless. Then the shots that start coming in become a little bit more annoying. I don't really have a clue where the shot came from. I'm trying to, kind of spot the target. I can't really move anywhere. Looking where the potential smokes are coming from, so immediately spot a T-34, eliminate him, and I believe that is going to be the last kill right here. Never mind, there's one more we can spot over there, another T-34-85. Shot the track, looking at the way the ticket bleed is happening, we may be able to get one more hit in, and we do indeed finish him off just before the end of the match, and obviously that yields us together a total of 16 kills, and I don't think that's a bad result, considering that we only died 4 times, giving us a, well, a good old 4-to-1 KD ratio. Now, a bit of a rundown of what happened. Most of the kills that we did actually obtain were reverse spawn camping rolls. And so if you do ever find yourself in a position where you're stuck in a match that you can't win, but you do think you can probably benefit a few extra kills out, if you do have the vehicles, if you do have the lineup, I highly recommend you do this kind of reverse spawn camping, because practically what's happening is you're spawning in, you're giving 20 seconds or so of spawn protection, which means the enemy can't hurt you, and you can just dish shells left, right, and center on tanks that are practically waiting for you there to kill them. There are free kills, they're being given out, and you might as well take the opportunity. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be back soon with a bunch of other lineup guides, but in general, if you're looking for some SPA information, you can probably find me over at twitch.tv/theOrangeDoom very, very soon. Cheers.